Good afternoon and welcome to the November 14th, 2024 inaugural meeting of the Sunshine Coast Regional District Board. I would like to call the meeting to order at 1:04 p.m. and acknowledge that the Sunshine Coast Regional District is within the territory of the Shishal and Squamish First Nations. Our first order of business will be the election of the chair. The procedure for election of the chair is set out by the Board Procedures Bylaw. I will call for nominations 3 times. At the close of nominations, if more than one candidate has been nominated, each will be given a maximum of 3 minutes to address the board in favor of their candidacy. I will then hand out blank ballots on which you will write the name of your candidate of choice. We will collect and count the ballots and inform the board if there is a successful candidate. A majority of votes of the members present is required to elect the chair, which means that one of the candidates must receive at least 5 votes to be elected. If no one receives at least 5 votes, the voting will be repeated. When the voting is repeated, all names remain on the ballot unless a nominee withdraws. Are there any questions or requests from the board relating to the process? Would the board members like to know how many votes each candidate receives? And if so, would one of the directors like to make a motion to that effect? Okay. Hearing nothing further, I will call a first time for nominations for the position of chair for the Sunshine Coast Regional District. Director Bax.
I would like to nominate Director Alton Toth for position of board chair.
Director Toth, do you accept the nomination?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
I will now call for nominations a second time. I will now call for nominations a third and final time. There being no further nominations, I declare Alton Toth elected as chair of the Sunshine Coast Regional District by acclamation.
Thank you, Corporate Officer. The election of the vice chair will follow the same procedure as the election of the chair. I will call for nominations 3 times. If only one candidate is nominated, that candidate will be declared elected by acclamation. If an election by voting is required, the corporate officer will hand out blank ballots on which you will write the name of the candidate of your choice. Ballots will be collected and counted, and the corporate officer will inform the board if there is a successful candidate. So with that, I will call a first time for nominations for the position of Vice Chair for the Sunshine Coast Regional District. Director Bax.
I nominate Director Justine Gabias for the position of Vice Chair.
Thank you. Director Gabias, do you accept?
Yes, with thanks.
Thank you. Director Stamford.
I nominate Director McMahon.
Director McMahon, do you accept?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. I will now call for nominations a second time. Director Stamford, I assume your hand is residual? Yeah. Thank you. I will now call for nominations for a third and final time. And having received 2 nominations, each candidate will be given a maximum of 3 minutes to address the board prior to an election by ballot. The candidates are Director Gabias and Director McMahon. A majority of votes of the members present is required to elect, which means that one of the candidates must receive at least 5 votes to be elected. So with that, I guess, Director Gabias, you were nominated first, and so you will have 3 minutes.
All right. Thank you very much, Chair Toth. And I want to start by thanking Chair Lee for 2 years of service and leadership. Thank you very much for that. And thank you, Director Toth, for taking the reins. That's really good news. And I've been thinking about service a lot recently, and I want to serve to the best of my ability and capacity. And I would love to be there to support you in the role of chair and support my colleagues as well. We have a lot of really complex challenges ahead of us that will, and I really want us to kind of use those challenges and turn them into opportunities to make positive change. And I think one of the things that I would like to focus on as vice chair would be communications between board, staff, and community, just to make sure that these bridges between these 3 entities are solid and that we hear and understand each other so that we can walk in lockstep towards a common goal of having a resilient, vibrant, and affordable Sunshine Coast. And I would really also like to turn some attention to advocacy, which is a huge part of our work, and make it more strategic and intentional, and work with the chair to find ways to do that and support our colleagues. And I also want us to be proud of the work that we do. I would love staff to feel proud, feel like they make a difference. We have fantastic staff. We need to support them, and creating that atmosphere of service and, yeah, pride in the work that we do. And we do have the privilege of having a little bit of power, and we need to recognize that and use it to the best of our ability. I'm not sure where I'm at with time, but I really want to thank everybody and thank you, Director Bax, for the nomination. And yeah, let's have a great term.
Thank you, Director Gabius. You've finished with 1 minute to spare. So next up, Director McMahon.
Thank you. I'm also going to keep it brief, in part because I didn't prepare anything. So it's well known that I am not a big fan of acclamations. I think that the public or the board should have a choice. So I am providing a choice. Having said that, awkwardly, I'm going to say that I think either of us would do a perfectly good job. But as I'm put my name through, I'm looking forward to the next year. I have a lot of confidence in Chair Toth going forward this coming year. I'd like to look a little more at the vice chair role. I have been in the vice chair position twice before. It's an awkward role because it's not really defined in legislation, and it's largely up to the chair and the board to take the best advantage of the role, to build perhaps more capacity for the chair to get more done. Because the chair is a very challenging role, and as previously noted, we are not lacking in complex challenges coming at us. I never thought I'd live to see the day that I say I'd like to take a deeper dive into policy, but we do have some policies that I think are worth another look. And I have been on the policy review committee, and we made a good start, I think. But I think we still have some policies that we could look at, because we're getting along fairly well at the board right now. The policies are there for when things go off the rails, and that could happen. We've seen it happen elsewhere. So I would like to make sure that we have robust policies supporting us. And finally, there is the advocacy question. As you all know, I am on the executive for the Association of Vancouver Island and Coastal Communities, and I have been there now for a couple of years as the electoral area representative, working also with our EA rep at UBCM. And we need a lot more advocacy at the provincial level. The AVICC executive is ramping up advocacy efforts. Regardless of whether I'm vice chair or not, I will be working with them. And oh, really? I went 4.5 minutes without even planning it. This is atrocious. Maybe you don't want to vote for me. Okay, I'm done. Thanks.
Thank you, Director McMahon. Sorry, I didn't mean to be intrusive in the time reminder. I am tracking the time. So at this point, the corporate officer is going to circulate ballots for everybody to just write your preferred candidate on. First name, last name, pretty much anything's acceptable as long as it's clear who you're intending to vote for. The corporate officer and the CAO are currently leaving the room in order to count ballots. Directors, do you have any interesting facts, stories, tales to share? Well, we could do the director's reports right now if we're quick. So, in order to fill the time, I had prepared notes, and Director Gabius and I, when we were talking about this, I had joked about providing duck facts with my speech time, and so with that, I'm going to actually throw a couple of duck facts out there. No, no speech, no after speech. Sorry.
What do you mean by duck fact?
Duck, quack, quack, duck facts. Did you know that ducks can fly at an altitude of up to 21,000 feet?
Yes.
You did.
Thank you, Chair. We do have a successful candidate, and we would like to announce that Director Justine Gabius has been elected Vice Chair of the Regional District.
Congratulations, Director Gabius. We're just going to take a couple minutes, recess real quick to change our seats to carry on with the meeting, so we'll be right back. Thank you very much, and welcome back to the regular board meeting for Thursday, November the 14th, 2024. Just before we get into our agenda, I would like to say thank you to Director Lee for serving as chair and inspiring us in a lot of this work that we've got ahead of us in the next year. It's going to be a big challenge, and I'm looking forward to all of us working together on that work as we move forward in the next year. But thank you for bringing us to where we are today, Director Lee.
Thank you, Chair, and I got a lot of confidence that you're going to do just a great job. So thank you for taking the position.
Thank you. Okay, directors, we do have an agenda in front of us today. It's a fairly lengthy one. I have had one director ask if it would be amenable to remove directors' reports for this meeting. And so with that, Director McMahon, I see your hand up.
Yes, I would like to add a notice of a motion under new business.
Thank you. All right. And is anybody opposed to removing directors' reports for this meeting? Let's go that way. I don't see anybody jumping up and down to insist on their director's reports. So with that, can I have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended, please? Moved, seconded, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. First up, we have regular board meeting minutes of October 24th, 2024. It's starting on page 3 of our agenda package. Directors, are there any errors or omissions in those minutes before we move to adopt? If not, I look for a motion to adopt the minutes, please. Moved, seconded, all those in favor? And that's carried. Is there any business arising or unfinished business from those board meeting minutes? Director McMahon.
Yes, I'd just like to flag that on page 5, we are sending a letter to the province about the OCP review process, which I haven't seen the letter yet, but perhaps I'd like to flag that to the board and staff's attention that that is a potential AVICC resolution that we could be looking at. Thank you.
For sure. Thank you, Director McMahon. All right, is there any other items of unfinished business from that before we move on? I see no hands. So with that, we will move to item 8.1, which is Committee of the Whole meeting recommendation numbers 1 through 6 of October 24th, 2024, starting on page 13 in the agenda package. And directors, are there any recommendations that you want to remove before we consider the block? If not, can I have a motion to, thank you, Director Inkster. And do I have a seconder? A couple of seconders, thank you very much. Any further discussion on the motion? I will call the question then. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Next up, we have Finance Committee meeting recommendations 1 through 20 of October 28th, 2024. Directors, there were a couple of recommendations in here that I had sent an email out about. Recommendations 5, 12, and 15 specifically. Are there any recommendations that directors would like to pull for further discussion before we adopt the block? Director Stamford.
Yes, I'd like to pull recommendation number 11 on page 21.
Recommendation 11, thank you.
Sorry, I thought we were on October 24th,
Nope.
Committee of the Whole.
Finance Committee meeting,
Beg your pardon.
yeah. So recommendation 11, are there any other recommendations that directors would like to pull for further discussion? Okay, seeing no hands up, I'll give you a little bit longer. Director Inkster, I see your hand. Okay, just give me 1 second. It's a long list. I just want to make sure directors are comfortable with moving the rest of them at this time. And Director, thank you, Director Stamford. Director Bax.
Yeah, and in the recommendation number 15, the Seashell Aquatic Center pumps for water features, I would,
We're not, you would like to pull that entire recommendation for further discussion
is that, yeah.
at this point?
I just feel that that particular issue should be incorporated rather than go to round one and save some time.
So you'd like to, at this point, we're just talking about
Pull
pulling
15.
recommendations from the block?
Sure,
Okay,
pull
15?
Yep.
Thank you. Anything else from directors? If not, I would look for a motion to endorse recommendations 1 through 20, except for 11 and 15. I saw a mover there. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Director McMahon. Thank you. Any further discussion on the block? If not, I will call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Okay, looking at recommendation 11, Director Stanford.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not exactly sure on the process for this because I voted to oppose this particular motion or recommendation. But given that we had a delegation this morning and we passed some recommendations that looked at community funding for a feasibility study, I was hoping that we could reconsider this particular recommendation.
Thank you. At this point, it is just a recommendation, so I believe it's our ability to manipulate this recommendation however we want to before it's voted on. So Director Stanford, if you had an alternate wording, you are welcome to present it. Or another option entirely, but.
My preferred recommendation is to consider defeating this recommendation.
Okay. Director Inkster.
Just some clarification then, if in fact it's moving in that direction and Director Stanford was the only vote not in favor. I'm assuming that once it comes to board, it's a full board decision at this point, correct?
I believe once it's been pulled, I'm gonna, while the corporate officer is contemplating that, I'm gonna go to Director White since I see his hand up. Oh, my apologies.
Chair, because this, we are in board right now, and the subject matter of the recommendation deals with a feasibility, which is essentially a budget issue, so the entire board would be eligible to vote on this.
Okay, thank you. Director McMahon.
Thank you. I'm not going to completely repeat everything I said about this previously, except that I do think that a feasibility study needs to be done. I just don't think now is the moment. I think we need to get the OCPs done and the fire flow plan done before we delve into the possibility of a fire district boundary expansion. Thank you.
Thank you, Director McMahon. Director White.
I as one of the members of this service whose taxpayers need to pay for it, I plead with my fellow directors to honor the original committee vote where the majority of the service providers did want to defer this to 2027 for very sound reasons. I think as we can all relate to, we have a lot of pressures, financial pressures at all our fire services right now, and we really need to focus on those. And this would be just going down this road at this point isn't really the order of operations we need to go in. We need to get some other things done first.
Thank you, Director White. Director Stanford.
This is a process question. This motion is to defeat this. Is there an opportunity to come up with a separate motion afterwards if it's?
I don't actually have a seconder yet to, yeah, I don't have a motion on the floor yet. So if we wanted to do something different with the existing motion, or if we wanted to pass if we wanted to modify the existing recommendation or pass the existing recommendation as is, somebody can still move that, because I don't actually have a recommendation, or a resolution on the floor yet.
Okay, my follow-up. My concern about this is, number one, we have had an offer from the community to financially support a feasibility study. This is a priority for the Area F area that does not have fire support. Secondly, the original motion refers to 2027, and I think that is far too long to put this aside. This is one of the few issues the community is fully in support of, and they would like to see this considered as soon as possible. So if the original consideration is not is not supported at all, I would consider changing the recommendation to be deferred to 2026.
Okay, thank you. Is that,
I'm ready. I can help you.
thank you, Director White.
I'm going to put a motion forward that is the same wording as what we have in our agenda, but it's 2026 instead of 2027.
Okay,
Deferred
thank
to
you.
2026. So I believe you need a motion, right?
Yeah, thank you. Do I have a seconder for that? I do have a seconder for that. I do have a speakers list here. Director White, I assume that hand is residual. Director McMahon? Okay, Director Bax?
Yeah, it's, am I understanding this right, that because of this morning's delegation, that this feasibility study will be funded by the community? And therefore, I don't see, I mean, okay, so how much, what is the community willing to put forward in order to?
I don't,
Point of order, Chair, this is totally irrelevant because the motion we have is in relation to our budget and what we're paying. So the discussion about the community paying for it's totally separate.
thank you. I do recognize that any after-the-fact contributions really should not be part of the decision-making process at this point in time. I don't see any other hands up, so I will call the question on, oh, my apologies, Director Inkster. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. In this particular case, and as in others, I would encourage directors to find a way to work with others to help them with a particular concern within their area. I hope that the discussion happened between the three tax-paying entities in this particular situation where there was a discussion. We're supposed to be working together as a team. I won't be supporting it because I cannot, in conscience, vote for a tax on another area. Thanks.
Thank you, Director Inkster. I don't see any other hands up, so I will call the question, which is to defer the boundary expansion feasibility to 2026. All those in favor? It is voting all. Those opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you very much. Now, Director Bax, you had flagged recommendation 15. Oh, interim CAO?
Thank you, Chair. My apologies for not speaking up sooner. Recommendation 13, we have had some suggestions by our new Senior Manager of Protective Services to revisit the application for the grant, for us to apply for a regional grant. So we would recommend that recommendation be reconsidered for an alternate motion, please.
Okay. Thank you, interim CAO. So in light of those comments, directors, do I have a motion to reconsider recommendation 13? Director McMahon, Director Gabius, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Now, do staff have a recommendation for us?
Yeah, apologies, want to do it on the fly. So essentially that the 2025 Community Emergency Preparedness Fund, SEP grant for emergency support services, training and equipment, be brought forward as part of the 2025 budget deliberations in consideration of a regional application.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a mover for that? Moved, seconded. Any discussion on that replacement motion? If not, all those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. All right. Thank you, CAO. All right, Director Bax, recommendation 15 you had flagged.
Yes, my question is that should this be, I'm talking about the Seashell Aquatic Center pumps for the water features. And should this have to go, if it's incorporated now, is that going to expedite the work that needs to be done? I see a head shaking. So if it's incorporated now, is it going to remove some of the workload on our staff?
CAO.
Thank you, Chair. So essentially, the budget proposals have been prepared. The agenda is scheduled to be distributed on the 18th, so everything's all done. And it won't expedite because essentially the financial plan has to be adopted.
All right, well, I remove my opposition to,
Director
This
McMahon, I see your hand up.
Yes. I wasn't quite sure why we were revisiting this recommendation. I thought we were revisiting it with a view to perhaps removing some of these from the budget. However, if the agenda and the budget proposals are already prepared, I don't see any advantage to doing that now when we don't have the full information on how much this would cost or what the alternatives are.
Is that a motion to endorse this recommendation?
Yes, I am moving recommendation number 15.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Bax, for seconding that recommendation. Do I have any speakers to the motion? Oh, Director Bax.
I just wanted to say that the process has illuminated some of the issues that I had around it.
Thank you, Director Bax. Director Inkster.
Yeah, I'm having a little problem with the hand. So you see this chair. Hello. I think just some of these issues, like the one that was starred by Director Baxt, is honestly, we fix it or it breaks. That's the alternative. Thanks.
Thank you. Or in this particular case, some of it's already broken, but with no other hands up, I will call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion's carried. Thank you. All right, that gets us through our previous recommendations. Honestly, I expected that to take us a little longer than it did, so that's good news. Next up, we're going to move on to item 8.3, which is a contract award, invitation to tender 243-7020 ultraviolet upgrade Chapman Creek Water Treatment Plant. And Manager Waldorf.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry. So this report is just to award the contract for the upgrade to the UV treatment. Apologies. UV treatment equipment at the Chapman Water Treatment Plant. And it also includes a small request for an increase in the available contingency for the, for the consultant to facilitate the construction of the project. Recommendation is that a report titled Contract Award Invitation to Tender ITT 243-7020 Ultraviolet Upgrade Chapman Creek Water Treatment Plant be received, and that the contract for construction services be awarded to TriTech Group in the amount of $1,998,412. That the contingency for the contract with Stantec Consulting be increased by $26,256. And further, that the delegated authorities be authorized to execute the contract. And that keeps us just inside the original the original approved project budget. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Manager Waldorf. Director Bax.
Move the recommendations as they appear on page 27.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Director McMahon. Director Inkster, I see your hand. Thank you. I see your hand.
So a couple of questions in reference to, as I always ask, in reference to our infrastructure at the regional district. The report indicates by Mr. Waldorf that it hit the end of its life. Is this UV system a regular replacement because it's a key piece of the system, or is it the end of the life from the original plant that I went and looked at upon construction in the early 2000s? Thanks.
Thank you. Manager Waldorf?
So the existing equipment is really difficult to service, and the technology is essentially at the end of its life. Also, to meet Vancouver Coastal Health water treatment guidelines now to provide appropriate redundancy, the new system operates in tandem. We run one filter treatment center at one point, and we can switch to the other and cycle back and forth for maintenance, so we don't have to take it down. It is 2000 to 20, yeah. So the piece of equipment itself is pretty much at end of life, end of useful life.
Okay, thanks, Chair. I always like it when staff does hand demos. I always like that, yeah.
Good. Did you have anything further, Director Inkster? Okay,
helpful.
thank you. I don't see any other hands up. This is a weighted vote, all directors. I will call the question then. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. And thank you, Manager Waldorf. Moving on to Gibsons and District Volunteer Fire Department Firefighting Apparatus 2024 Contract Award. And turn this over to Chief Michael. This is on page 32 of our agenda.
Thank you very much. I have not prepared an introduction besides this has been a long process to get us to this point, and looking forward to a decision on the matter. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for that brief introduction. Director McMahon.
Yeah, just a quick question. My recollection is that the current apparatus that this will replace is over 20 years old and can only be extended to be 25 years old. So how does that fit in? We're going to make it just under the wire?
That's a great question, and the answer to that is yes. So we have got a formal extension, which will take us to right about the time we're expecting the delivery of this new apparatus.
Great. Thank you very much. Director McMahon.
Yes, while I'm at it, I should move the recommendations on page 32.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Director Gabius. This also is all directors weighted vote. Is there any further discussion on the motion? If not, I will call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Thank you, Chief Michael. And that takes us to the end of our reports. We have no communications. I suppose we have a notice of motion under new business. We've struck director's reports for today. So Director McMahon, the floor is yours.
Sorry, I just have to find it here. Right, and as I was reminded, the process is that I give a notice of motion here at this meeting, then it goes on the next board agenda for consideration then. So my motion is moved that staff provide a report on recent boundary extension applications to include Area E properties in the town of Gibsons, including details of the feedback provided by SCRD staff to the town and its consultants, and that the report be provided before the end of 2024. And further, that any future boundary extension applications be reported by planning staff in writing to the electoral area directors immediately.
Thank you, Director McMahon. This is just a notice of motion. We're not voting on it today. And you have circulated that by email, so the directors all have it. Thank you for that. There's no discussion on it at this time. It is now just part of the record. So we will discuss it further at the next board meeting. Now, with that, we do have a session to go in camera, so I would look for a motion that the public be excluded from attendance at the meeting in accordance with section 90, subsection 1, A, C, and K of the community charter. Somebody, anybody? Oh, thank you, Director Gabius. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Director Paul. All those in favor? And that's carried. Do we have any questions from the gallery that is rapidly moving out of the room? I guess that's no questions. Thank you for attending. All right. We do have one online attendee who has just left the meeting. So I think with that, we can go in camera. Good afternoon and welcome back to the regularly scheduled board meeting for the Sunshine Coast Regional District for Thursday, November 14th. It's 3:31 PM and we've reached the end of our agenda. So with that, I would look for a motion to adjourn. Moved, seconded, all those in favor. And that is carried. Thank you very much and we'll see you at the next one.